Welcome to Better Credit, Better Home. Your source for the latest local and national news that can impact you if you are in the market for real estate. Here are your hosts, the Kingwood mortgage guy, Mike Durr, who uses his 25 years as a mortgage professional to help people improve their credit, and Joe Solis, an accomplished home inspector, real estate agent, and trainer of new agents for Jane Bird Property International. Together, they will help you understand what you need to know to get the most out of your real estate investment. Let's get started.
Let's do it.
Let's get started. Let's do some real estate. I'm going to call that guy back and say, look, dude, you kind of the word there a little bit, but he forgot me a long time ago.
That's awesome. How you been, man?
Yeah, life is pretty good. I mean, shoot, living the dream.
Playing much tennis in this heat or no?
Oh, dude, I told my main guy that schedules tennis and stuff, I said, I'll see you guys in October. And then I'll be dogged, I didn't play 3 times last week. I played on Monday, I played on Thursday, and I played on Saturday all next week. But I'm digging it, man. It's a lot of fun, and I'm sustaining myself in the heat, so
yeah, that's good.
It's a good thing.
Drink lots of water, man.
Yeah, lots of water and a lot of red faces and all that kind of stuff. So this is kind of an interesting one. A lot of the information we covered last week, I kept in here because I was looking at what we could do to help people that are out there looking right now, and it appears to be, to me, at least from the calls I'm getting, there are more people that have started. It's kind of like you described it perfectly when you said that the whole rate thing, people would let it go. And it's old news. And that's what I'm finding. People are saying, you know what, we don't like it, but we've got to move. We've got to do that. And hopefully you're having the same kind of response I am, because my business is up. And
it's starting to heat up a little bit, but I'm not hot yet. I mean, other than just sweating my butt off. But.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I thought that the information that we laid out last week was good. I did it a little different format. I think you're going to like it. So here is what we got. What do you think of that? That's a little better look.
I like that. That looks good.
And our subject today, home buying in summer 2023, what you need to know right now. And really the basis of this are tips. What kind of tips can we share with not just first-time home buyers? We like first-time home buyers, but just anybody that's buying a home this summer. So again, like last week, it's going to be a lot of you, and I'll chip in when I can and when I need to, but this is kind of like the layout. I guess
what happened to our boy Tim? Where's he at?
Oh, and he's probably doing some appraisals or something. I think he was, I don't know. You call him, he's one of those guys, he's like a realtor. You call him, he never answers. No, I'm
kidding. Not me. You call me, I'm going to answer.
Yeah, you're one of the good ones. But so, every time I do that, I call a realtor and I go, when are they going to answer the phone? I mean, come on.
Isn't that part of the business? I thought that's what I signed up for,
You think it would be, but anyway, these are the things I've got in here. Tips. We're going to talk about tips that are going to help you either save money or buy a better home or get somebody better to work with, all those things that you want. And really what I think people go into this process fearful that they're going to make a mistake. And it's you make a mistake in a real estate deal, that's got a lot of zeros behind it.
Yep.
So one of the things we want to do is we want to guide today. Hiring a realtor. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm sure you've got some information for that. Where to buy your first home, what to consider, loan program options. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll talk about how much down payment and a lot more. So and obviously Joe's numbers down there. It also streams down at the bottom, as does mine. So if you need to get in touch with us or write that down, it should be there throughout the the presentation. First thing I thought is, gosh, not everybody's a buyer. I mean, you may be watching this and you may be thinking, well, should I buy? But what about renting? What's wrong with renting? And there's nothing wrong with renting. You have to make that call. The things that are on here, this is not my list. This is a list. Found this. Google is the purveyor of most of the information we put out anyway. So it says buy versus rent. When you buy, you build equity. It's a good thing. You have no landlord. You do have a mortgage company, but you don't have a landlord. Home value generally increases, not every time. Tax deductions, those are real. You get tax deductions for not only the taxes you pay, but the interest that you pay. And then you get fixed payments. And I think this is the thing that might be more appealing to any person that's been renting for any length of time, is that you don't have to worry about that 3 to 5% increase in your payment, next year. But on the other side of that, when you're renting, you've got more flexibility. You can get out. It's easy to bail out of a rental property. Not always. You don't want to jump out of a lease too soon. There's concerns about that, but sometimes they're even cheaper than monthly payments. Now you're getting a crappy apartment or a house in most cases, but most of the time they're about the same money.
Yeah, that's usually what I'm telling people.
You don't have the maintenance responsibility. That would be with the landlord. So that's a good thing if you're not very handy, which is something I can relate to. And then the rent can change. I don't know if that's a positive or a negative. I guess it could go down. I don't see that happening very often. But at this point in time, if you say, oh, I like the flexibility, and gosh, if it could be cheaper, I just got to find a place and I don't have any maintenance, then this may be the end of this webinar for you. Yeah, we'll see you, and I wish you the best. But if you wanted to buy, stick around. I think we've got some good tips for you. Did I miss anything, Joe? What did I leave out here?
The biggest thing I say when people are renting and they're thinking about buying, or if I'm talking to somebody that's renting, it's just the simple thing about paying somebody for the privilege of living in their house, right? You're not building, and people are concerned these days with the 7% interest rate. I'm like, that's 100% interest. You don't get to own anything after your year of contract. You don't have a percentage interest in the property you're paying for. And other than that, though, I mean, a lot of people are happy with the flexibility. They're happy not being tied into something. They're happy with not being responsible for the most part for maintenance that needs to occur. Now you got to get yourself a landlord that's willing to manage those things, because as is the word of the day when it comes to a lease. But that's the thing. And then also the uncertainty of when I go to renew, if I'm a tenant, is the lease going to change? Is it going to go up? And most often than not, even after a year, the landlord's going to want to raise the rent at least a little bit.
Yeah, I had my sister-in-law was telling me she had been in the same house, I bet, for 15 years, and the seller, I think the owner passed away, the kids took it, and they fixed it up, and they were going to sell it. So she had to move, and she'd been in the property for 6 months, and they alerted her that if she chose to renew, the payment was going up $300 a month. And let me tell you, that's a shock for a person that's been renting a long time, and all of a sudden you think, yeah, I guess that buying thing was a pretty good idea back when I had the chance. But yeah, you just never know. But that's another reason that I thought about, was that's why first-time home buyers are in their 30s right now. There's most of the people that are between 22 and 33, they're in that flexibility mode. They don't know what their life is going to bring them, and so it takes a time to season yourself in life and jobs and working and all that kind of stuff to decide what you can do.
Man, I wish I would have bought my first house at 22, 23 years old.
Well, that's what we can all say, and it's just.
If you're listening to this and you're 22, 23 years old, buy your house.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so tips. That's what we're going to talk about. Tips before you purchase. This is just a quick list of things that are probably a good idea for you to do if you're 22 years old and think you're pretty smart. Get your credit in line. There's a lot of, it's a cliche down here that we talk to somebody and they're getting ready to buy and we pull their credit and they've got a 589 FICO score. And, you go, dude, what were you thinking? I mean, I was young and dumb. I didn't know I had to pay that stuff.
Fast cars and fast women, Mike. That's what I'm talking about.
That's right. So you also have to allocate how much of your savings you're going to need. If that's assuming you have savings. This has been a tough time to save. I was talking to a guy in my office building today, smart guy, and he was talking about some charts that he'd seen that showed the amount of savings that American men and women have not saved this year, that the savings rate is way low. And so it's harder right now because of inflation. Search for professional advocates. And that'd be kind of like me and you, Joe.
I love that word.
I do too. I talked to somebody on the phone today and I said, look, what you really want to have work for you is somebody that cares about you and that's going to treat you as your advocate. I mean, you want to be their friend and help them. And if you do that, as opposed to some of the people that look at people as customers or numbers or just another payday or something like that, that's not somebody that's really going to be working in your best interest. So you have to consider where you want to live. You have to have a clear idea of what your budget's going to look like, and you need to understand how property taxes can impact your payment. Those are a couple of the tips that I came up with. What do you think? What did I miss here?
One thing that comes up, especially with first-time home buyers and their position and looking at the properties, for the most part, I can't say this is always, but a lot of times they're looking at properties that are 250, 300,000, which keeps them around the average of sales price in the Houston area. But one of the things I tell them is, in the fiduciary duty that I provide is the information, right? What catches them a lot of times is insurance, because they're in a flood zone or they're close to a flood zone, and it's going to be a requirement through underwriting if they're in 100-year, to carry a policy, a flood insurance policy. Yeah. And that can affect their total monthly expenditure on the house. And so that also understanding, there's no landlord involved anymore. So you're responsible for the upkeep. How do you know that your house needs something done or there's a problem? And that's where, as a homeowner, regular hiring of an inspector, probably once every other year or 2 years, can help you identify. There's no check engine light on a house. And so you don't know what you don't know, especially if you're not going up in the attic or if you're not walking around the house, if you're not looking up at the roof. The things that the inspectors look at and that we catch could possibly be caught before they become a manifestation into other systems. And that's the most valuable thing I can say as far as a tip before you purchase. Realize what you're getting yourself into. Realize what you're getting yourself into and be prepared for that, and utilize the tools that not only an inspector can bring, but also a realtor, a well-versed mortgage person to set you up for success. But what you do once you get that house also sets you up for success going forward, because in my mind, it's an investment opportunity for you, right? If you know,
that's a very painful but really true tip that people need to take to heart, because as you were saying that, I was feeling pulling the spear out of my chest because that is me. I want the house to take care of itself. And of course,
we all wish.
But I will tell you that YouTube is your friend, and so when things happen around the house, you can actually fix more than you think you can. Because I was, for the longest time, just relied on other people to help us out. And I can actually do some stuff these days.
Oh yeah.
I can, I'll mess it up and then I'll have them come over and help.
Yeah, right.
So moving on, we're going to say, how much down payment do I need? Now, this is from what I understand, the surveys say that 50% of the people out there believe that they need 20% down. And it's not 20%, it's not 10%, it's not 5%, it's not even 3%. It could be 1% or it could be 0%. There are loans out there that you can get. Now, some are better than others, that's for sure. You need somebody to kind of guide you into what's out there, but you don't need as much as you think, particularly when you've got grant programs, you've got seller contributions. We're seeing a lot of those these days. Realtor contributions. You ever done that? Contribute to somebody's closing costs. Lender contributions. I've done it. We do it. It's under certain circumstances we do it. You got family gifts, and you got 401k funds. What other options can you think of that help people with closing costs and down payment?
Well, I think the biggest one that I can affect, at least in a deal or an offer, is the seller contribution. Right, writing a strong offer, but also asking for the seller to contribute to paying some of the buyer's closing costs.
So something happened a couple weeks ago that we had a deal where the seller was willing to give 6% for contributions on an FHA loan, and normally what we would say is, gosh, we don't have any way to use all that money, but today we do. And we were able to buy the rate down with the extra 3 points and used every penny of it. And they got a heck of a rate. I mean, it was, a gift that the seller could give that made a big difference on this particular deal. And it was a big deal.
Crazy. Yeah. And you said it bought it down 3 points. That's awesome.
Well, we ended up buying it down about 2.5 points. But we spent every penny of it. It was like $25,000, $30,000 worth of a gift. So anyway, if you have the closing cost and you use that money for discount points, think about it. You might skip we've told everybody that by now you're probably going to refinance in a year. Well, when you buy points or somebody else pays for those points to buy them down, you may skip that refi.
You'll be partying like it's 2019 over there.
Well, that's right. I don't know, maybe not quite that much. All right, so here's a big one. Choosing a realtor, how to find the best, the realtor and the right real estate agent, all right? Is there a difference between a real estate or a realtor? Say that for me. What's a realtor?
A realtor.
Realtor, okay, yeah. That's a 2-syllable word, all right. And then is there a difference between a real estate agent and a realtor?
Yes.
Okay, share with us.
A realtor is a part of the association. So our local association, the state association, and the national association. And with being a part of those associations, we're held not necessarily to a higher standard, but that's the way it works out. We have extra tools to help us do our job in representing and advocating for you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, my cut on finding the right realtor, if I was going to give somebody tips, first thing I always say is that you want them to be seasoned. That means they've just got experience. You want them to be full-time. I don't mean to bash anybody that's not doing this full-time, but I think it's a serious business. And I know it takes a while sometimes to get started, but if I had my choice, I'd want somebody that's doing this as an active profession full-time. So forgive me if you're out there and you're a realtor and you're doing it part-time. But that's just the way I feel.
Well, I think that's important, but to follow that up or to add another layer to it, because I know all of my trainees would probably kick me in my shin if they heard us talking about it this way. It's always good to throw a bone to new agents. I think because a lot of times, not a lot of times, but they're more eager to serve. You get a crusty old realtor, he or she may know a lot and be seasoned and be full-time, but, it depends on the personality. But what I would say is there's another layer to it. So if you are being approached by a realtor that isn't seasoned or isn't full-time, ask them what kind of support mechanism they have behind them.
Right.
Because for my new agents that I'm in charge of for training, I tell them to sell me as well as them. because that's the way we work in Janeberg Properties, is that I'm assigned to them and I'm there to be a resource for them in whatever business opportunity they are presented with, a buyer, a seller, landlord, or a tenant, etc., to be that voice of season, to be that full-time agent that's there supporting them. So that way, to break into this industry is super hard. Super hard. If anybody out there is looking to be a realtor, if anybody said it's easy to you, they're lying to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I think it is good to have a seasoned person, a full-time person, but don't necessarily discount those who are trying to break in. Ask them if they have that seasoned full-time person supporting them. And then you can rest assured that hopefully you'll be taken care of through the process.
Well, I think that's a great point. And the next one I put on my list was credentials. And I think those are important, that they've gone through the study to get credentials. But the one that you mentioned was that a lot of these professional realtors are busy and they don't have time for everybody. And they measure their time based on what it's going to bring back to them. So they've decided that, they may allow an assistant or somebody that's younger to work and do some of the heavy lifting for them. I also like to put on there great reviews. I mean, it's really important to see what the anybody that you get service from, what the people say about how they were treated. I think that's important. And then the last one I put on here, and it may not be the last one, but it's as a great negotiator. Obviously, it made me think of some things that I'll tell you after this. But what did I miss here?
My number.
Oh, that's right. It's my number.
No, I'm just.
This will come on the bottom.
No, I think you hit a lot of the good aspects of it. At the end of the day, though, you want somebody that's going to be an advocate for you. There's that word again, right? You want somebody that's going to realize that their role is to provide that obedience, that loyalty, the disclosures that you need, the confidentiality, the accounting, the reasonable care that comes along with somebody that understands what their role is in real estate as a realtor. And that's what we should provide, and that's what you should search out. Everybody gets caught up with this selling sunset. It's not all dressing nice and looking at nice homes, right? There's a lot of work that goes into being a realtor that's actually servicing your clients, and search for those realtors.
I also remember somebody telling me that we just connected, and somebody that you can connect with that I think gets you and understands what you're looking for. I think that's a nice connection also, and you always tend to be happy with those kind of deals.
That's what keeps me coming back week to week, Mike.
That's right. And I appreciate it too. All right, so best loan programs for you. So my tip as far as what are the best loan programs for you, the best tip is to find somebody that cares, that will show you what the options are for each one of them that you're going to qualify for. And just because they do non-QM doesn't mean that that's going to be the best loan for you. You want to get one that, if you're a vet, I mean, there are reasons that vets don't do VA loan programs. And I think the VA loan program is one of the best programs out there. So there are a lot of options out there. And after your advocate looks at that, they will share with you and show you why there's a difference and why one might be better over the other on a long-term basis. It might not be better right now, but it might be better in 5 or 6 years.
What's the most often reason somebody that's a veteran would choose not to use a VA program loan?
Well, it could be that they've already used one and they still have a house that's under a VA loan, which doesn't stop you from using it. You get an allotment, and the allotment, it's kind of quirky to calculate it, but a vet can buy $1 million worth of a house, and it could be in 3 houses.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, but I'm trying to think of why. I haven't had too many that said, I'm not going to do it that way, but there are some that did, and it could have been for whatever reason the conventional was more appealing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense to me. So researching and choosing the right neighborhood. Now this I think is where we can give you tips, and I have my own version of what I think is good tips. One is the classic location. I think that I tell people to move to areas where there are good schools. I think that the school district is a real pillar of what keeps a neighborhood appreciated. If you have consistently good schools, people want to bring their kids up in good schools, and that area will generally appreciate. So the others I put on here are the amenities, church, parks, rec centers, walking trails, grocery stores, restaurants. You may not get all those, but you like the people that live downtown and down around the Heights area. Let me tell you, that's a wonderful area, but it's not because of the great schools. It's because of all the other cool things. Also, there's not that many people that have kids down there. I say that, that's not true. But commuting to work, church, shopping, I mean, it's all good for that. So spread additional things on there, or emphasize things that you think are important.
Well, it's gotta make sense to what you want, right? The main driver of people living in the Heights area or even in the Woodlands area where I am is what they want from a house. The location is important. Is it close to their job? Is it a good school district? Is it, I have a Jewish client. Was it close to their where they go to pray and worship? Because there's restrictions on how they can get there, right?
Right.
So there's all sorts of things that will lead somebody in putting them in the right location. With some of the tools that we talked about the sales agent versus realtor. Being a realtor, I have access to tools that will help produce reports to show you what the demographics, what the school grading is, different things about the area to help you make an informed decision. But there, like you said earlier, Google's always your friend with that too.
That's right.
You take the information that's given to you, but also do your own research, trust but verify, right? So
that's right. And I think, around the whole thing, this is one of the key areas that can make or break how you do. And I'll give you an example, and I've said this before, is the second home that I bought. I got lucky on my first home and bought it in the right neighborhood just because it was close to family. Well, the second home was even closer to family, but it was on the wrong side of the street. And there was a street that divided one subdivision from another subdivision.
Yep.
And the difference in the appreciation on those two sides of the street was huge. It wasn't just a little bit, it was a lot. And so just be aware of those kind of things. And that's the kind of things that your realtor can help with. Okay, so important features to look for in a home. I added a couple to this one, but I put on there backyard space, the garden, kids, walk-in closets, energy efficient, open floor plan, updated appliance, and a nice garage.
Yeah, you missed one that's really prevalent these days. A study.
A study.
An area for an in-house office.
Yeah.
That's actually a big ask these days.
Yeah, I took a contract on one today that I was like lusting after the office that was in it. It was really nice.
There's also, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say this office, it had like, just off the entryway, you enter here, the dining room was on one side, the office was in the other side, but the office had an inner, like when you shut the door, it was like judges paneling, but there was like a secret door that opened up into a separate office. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is really cool. But anyway, I go on. What were you saying?
Oh, what I was going to say is with the prevalence of, and it's happening, elderly family moving back in with their kids, you see now people searching for those next gen style houses where there's
two masters
living areas. Yep, two
masters downstairs.
Yeah.
Oh, here's one you love.
No, not only that. That's my nightmare, Mike. What are you talking about?
Whoops.
Hey, knock on wood. Knock on wood. Since 2016, never have I done that.
The reason I took this picture is because this could have been me. I mean, I did step through the attic and into the below area with just one leg, not both legs. But what I put in this one is no money pit for me. I'm going to get all that stuff checked out by Mr. Joe Salas.
That's it. Give me a call. So I won't show up in that suit, though. It's too damn hot.
Getting the best price and terms for your first home. You're going to, well, your advocate, Mr. Salas, is going to research local market, understanding trends, comparable sales, demand, flexible closing time, and great realtor negotiator. There you go, right there. There's your advertisement.
I love that.
Yeah. All right, essential tips for first-time homebuyers closing process. And this is, it's obviously when you're closing, it's an exciting time. You're going to do that final walkthrough, and don't be afraid to speak up if the people didn't do what they said they were supposed to do. And I've seen it happen. I haven't seen many that were delayed. People just accepted it, but they had a bad taste in their mouth after it. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have. That comes with experience, and like we were talking about earlier, tenure and everything. It's happened to a couple of my buyer clients where the seller moved out and left trash all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, lesson learned. We're going to put in the contract that the seller needs to have the house professionally cleaned upon move out. And that's something that we can do. But as far as the walkthrough, if there's anything pending by the time you get to the walkthrough, it's almost too late, because you're going to have to amend the contract to close at a later date. You've probably locked in the rate from the mortgage side, and there's some time limits with that. So the best thing to do is have your advocate, which is the realtor, advise you, hey, we need to go look at the stuff that was supposed to be done a few days prior to closing. That way, if something wasn't done, we can definitely make amends on that. But the last day or the final walk, mostly that's just to make sure there was no casualty loss, no tree fell on the house, there was no fire, the house isn't flooding, type of thing. What I would ask, Mike, is if you could put together and this may be offline from this, but a sort of review of the closing docs themselves, because we never dived real deep into that, but it's something that buyers are going to get right before closing, and understanding those different line items and understanding those different charges may be helpful for some of the general public out there.
So let me tell you, they changed the closing disclosure. Used to be called a HUD. They changed it probably 5-6 years ago. I don't know. It's been a while. And when they changed it, they didn't change it. Their reason for changing it was to make it more clear, transparent, and they totally screwed it up.
I remember the change. They still use the HUD on cash sales too.
Yeah, they do, and because it makes more sense.
Yeah.
One of the things that I pride myself on doing is when the final closing CD comes out, and it's even to the level where you get the initial CD, which is 3 days in advance, it's not correct.
Yeah.
Right. And people go, well, why isn't it correct? I mean, we're 3 days away from the closing, or 5 days away from the closing. And we're required to disclose these things in a manner that's just not correct. So it's important for me the day before, whenever, a couple days before the closing, to go over the final CD, so that one, they understand that it's consistent with what we talked about in the early phases. But when they go to the closing's a blur. I mean, if you're listening to me and you're getting ready to go to closing and you haven't gone over your closing disclosure prior to, it's not going to make any sense to you, because there's pressure, there's stuff going on, and you're just not in a phase of looking and dissecting numbers. If you go and do it before, at least once, sometimes more than that, you're better prepared to ask any questions about any fees that you don't understand. And that's why I like to go to closings. I don't go to as many as I used to go to, but it's a great question, and it's something I think and feel very strongly about, is that you want to know what the heck all the numbers are, and there are a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a great question. So just like we said, I always tell people this, you get a stack of about 77 pages that you're going to be signing when you go to a closing, but there's about 4 that are really important. And that is the promissory note, the deed of trust, the closing disclosure, and the survey. The survey is probably the most likely one that you pull out of that pack anytime over the next 10 years. so that you can show it to the guy that's going to come in and fix the pool, or you're adding a deck, or you're doing any of that kind of stuff. But those are the key documents. Everything else in there is simply built in there to protect and cover the mortgage company's backside.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, one of the questions down here is escrow or not to escrow. I'm opinionated on this subject. Some people should absolutely escrow. I'm not a big fan of it personally. That's changed over my life because my situation's changed a little bit. But you need to get somebody to explain what the why that's a good idea and why it's not a good idea.
Yeah, for first-time home buyers, though, I think the majority of the time it's going to be a good idea, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my advertising. I think I shared with you last week that I closed one of these last week.
Yeah, you did.
And it was for a person that had plenty of money. There was a school teacher, as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
She sold a house previously. She wasn't a first-time home buyer, but she just happened to fit in the parameters of this particular loan program. And for the $4,000, we were able to buy her rate down. She didn't need the money. And it turned out to be, well, where rates were in the 7s, she got a low 6. I mean, a very low 6. And so it made her very happy. The key parts of it are that you're 80% of the median income, and that represents in pretty much all the counties around us. The median income is, or the 80% of the median income is $72,640. So if you're making $6,000 a month, then you'll qualify for this. This is the other crazy part, Joe, is let's say that you make $6,000 as a salary, and you make commission, and you make $6,000 every month in commission. You can still qualify for this loan. We do not have to count the commission or the overtime or the spouse's income or any other income. And I think that's just crazy. So minimum is, you do have to take a home buyer education course, which is free. 620 minimum FICO, and I'll be very square with you. 625 minimum FICOs are tough for this program because it's a 97% program. Debt ratio must meet the Freddie or Fannie guidelines. Income is so flexible. Salary, commission, married, not required to use spouse, non-occupant borrowers allowed. Aid from lender is capped at $4,000. So it's a cool thing if you want to find out about this. If you could use an extra $4,000, whether you have enough money or not, this is a great program.
And the buyer has to live in the house, right?
Yeah. No, but there is you can have a non-occupant co-buyer.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, yeah, you can have, like a parent could co-sign for you.
Yeah, good.
Reasonable credit scores, 5, and I just go through that stuff. That's basic stuff for when you're trying to qualify. Very simple stuff. Qualifying income, W-2s are more important than tax returns right now. 2 years job history. I put on here that what they don't like to see is they don't like to see big gaps. And when you have a big gap, that's 6 months or so off of work. If you have 6 months off of work, they want you to be back at work for at least 6 months. So it's not the end of the world, but it is important. College, or for that matter, school, could be high school for that matter, could be considered as work. And considered, you'd have to have transcripts to prove that. Overtime income considered after 2 years, but many times we can use it for 1 year under very certain specific exceptions. Same thing on commissions. I get a lot of people that are making $4,000 as a salary, and they make equally amount in commissions, and a lot of times they can't use that. And then finish it all up. This is about what rates are. Actually, rates were a little bit lower than this today. I locked the loan today at 6.625, and did a cash out. I got a cash out loan that's going to be in the 6s also. And welcome back to refis. I mean, that's the first one I've done in about a year, but rates are getting better, and it looks like they're going to be, I'm going to quit talking about what they're going to be, but things are looking like they're moving back to normal, Joe. That's all I got.
I hope so. I think, you know what? I think we're at the start of it. I think by the end of the year, we should probably be at a more reasonable, I'm hoping, high
Yeah, I
fives,
think
low
I
sixes.
think it's a good time right now. But listen, we want to thank everybody that came and watched. We hope that you would subscribe and make comments and good comments, bad comments. I mean, we don't care. We just want to hear what you think, what you want, what would help you. We'd love to put it on there for you. And again, we'll be back next Tuesday. Joe, I'll be here. Are you going to come?
I'll be here.
All right, brother. I thoroughly enjoyed it. We will talk to you later and have a great week. And if you need me, let me know. All right.
See you, Mike. All right. Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.